Hey everyone, welcome to my build video for my Twister build. That's a Huntress character with the new Spirit Walker Ascendancy in patch 0.5. This character is currently level 94. I have max resistance, 48 chaos resistance, 2000 life, 1000 energy shield. My tooltip DPS on Twister is currently 91,000. I've also completed 99% of all the content already and have pretty much also maxed out the Atlas skill tree. And I've also maxed out for the individual skill trees for Fall Mechanics and Path of Exile 2, patch 0.5. This build is really fun to play in general. It's incredibly strong. The main gameplay loop is essentially casting Whirling Slash 3 times and then using Twister to enhance Twister, because Twister gets granted an effect when you stack 3 times with Whirling Slash to then cast Twister. To enhance this further, we also use Barrage and Ice-Tipped Arrows and Dodge Rolling, which grants Primal Bounty, which is essentially a new skill with the Spirit Walker Ascendancy. So the main gameplay loop is essentially casting Ice-Tipped Arrows first, dodge rolling, casting Whirling Slash 3 times, using Barrage, and then using Twister for an amplified effect. And then for bosses, you also want to use Freezing Mark on them to amplify damage even further. So I'll go over my gems. So the build uses a level 1 Whirling Slash linked with faster attacks, rapid attacks, Rage, Culling Strike, and this new Lineage gem. So faster attacks is important because you want to stack 3 as fast as possible. Rage is important because you get free damage, essentially. And then Culling Strike is for this new Lineage gem because Culling Strike classifies as a killing blow, which grants you this effect, which essentially gives you a buff for 6 minutes and 30 seconds, which kind of acts like a poor man's headhunter. And this Lineage gem is insanely cheap on the currency exchange. I think it's currently selling for like 2 exalted orbs. So it's kind of a no-brainer to get this Lineage gem and have this setup, because you don't go out of your way to actually make this effect proc. It just naturally happens in the gameplay of playing Twister. Super underrated and highly recommended. Twister is linked with Deliberation, Prolonged Duration, Elemental Armament, Projectile Acceleration, and Frost Nexus. Now, Frost Nexus actually has a synergy with Twister in general, where Twister gets amplified effects from Elemental Ground. And Frost Nexus also synergizes with Ice-Tipped Arrows as well, and also Freezing Mark. It's a must-have support gem that you need to use. So obviously, these 4 support gems just enhance damage and make the Twisters faster, last longer, and deal more damage as well. So Deliberation's super good because you can't actually move while casting Twister. So Deliberation is definitely an ideal gem. I also use Combat Frenzy with Charge Profusion, Horror of Ice with Magnified Area, Elemental Armament, Elemental Focus, Long Shot, and Cold Penetration. Ghost Dance is linked with Cooldown Recovery. This is a defensive buff because we're running Energy Shield, which I'll go into detail further in this video. It's a very good buff to have. Ice tipped arrows is linked with elemental focus, elemental armament, second wind 3, which is a super important support gen that you want to have on your ice tipped arrows 100%, retreat, and deliberation. So second wind is super important because it makes the quality of life of this build in general, um, like the gameplay is enhanced dramatically and feels much smoother with second wind. So it reduces cooldown by 40%, and it also gives you twice as many cooldown uses. Barrage is linked with rapid casting, heightened charges, perpetual charge, prolonged duration, and this new lineage gem called Uhtred's Constellation. Now, this this support gen essentially does the exact same as Second Wind 3. It's a little bit different as it has some extra bonuses and it's a higher cooldown recovery rate, etc. And it just pretty much gives like +2 cooldown uses. It's around, I think, 2 divines at the moment. It's definitely a budget lineage gem that is significantly that significantly improves the overall feel of the build. So I highly recommend getting this gem if you can, um, because it definitely improves the build overall. Freezing Mark is linked with prolonged duration, efficiency, charge mark, mark of siphoning, and then I have Uhtred's Right. Um, don't really need this lineage gem. Kind of just have it for the sake of just having it. Like, why not? And then Trinity is linked with her declaration, which gives a really nice buff because Intimidation is a debuff that inflicts 10% increased damage taken and 10% reduced damage dealt of enemies in your presence. So everything within that green circle is intimidated. So that's a really nice buff to have. This lineage gem is quite expensive. Um, Definitely focus on it towards the end. I think it's currently like 12 divine orbs. But it's definitely a very neat little support gem to get in the end game. Because there's ascendancy skills as well, Vivid Stampede is linked with magnified area, lightning exposure, elemental armament, shock, and lightning attunement. Wild Protector is linked with Meat Shield, elemental army, minion mastery, hulking minions, and Ramirez lineage gem. So Ramirez is a lineage gem, which essentially gives you like a damage reduction boost because 10% of damage from hits is taken from the Wild Protector before you. So that's like a flat 10%. That's a really, really good gem. Not sure how much it costs at the moment, but I think it would probably be about 10, 12 divine, so quite expensive. Something you can focus on at the end. Primal Bounty is linked with Ulruf's Conviction. Now, this support gem is actually insanely expensive, and I was very fortunate and lucky enough to find another lineage support gem that I managed to sell. That was 3 times the value of Ulruf's that allowed me to get Ulruf's Conviction. Now, this makes Primal Bounty become empowered and just pretty much do insane damage and just overall enhance the Twister build dramatically. For items, I have this unique spear here on weapon set 1 because weapon set 1, to enhance Whirling Slash, you want the highest attack speed as possible or skill speed. I've currently put 2 of these runes in it. You can also get an attack speed soul core, I think, as well, to put into this spear. This spear has managed to get 2 sockets from corruption. Alternatively, you can use just any spear that has very high attack speed in general. For helmet, you want an energy shield helmet with resistances, a stat that you need to basically use runes or equip other items, etc. Um, this ES helmet synergizes really well with Subterfuge Mask, which is this notable right here on the passive tree, which gets also one invasion rating per one energy shield on equipped helmets. So this is a really great defensive node that every hybrid should have. And the other one is Spectral Ward, which is 1 to maximum energy shield per 12 evasion on equipped body armor. So my body armor has very high evasion, resistances that I need. I also specifically chose one with life regeneration, just in case if I ever need to generate life for some reason. And this base also has 5% increased movement speed. So I managed to craft this one to 3 sockets. Um, just the highest evasion rating possible because that synergizes with Dark Spectral Ward, and the helmet synergizes with Subterfuge Mask, which is here. My amulet is Rondel Fragility, instilled with serrated edges, which is a very cheap instillment to put on your amulet, but it's a very good one. Haven't really had a need to change it, and also the amulet's corrupted, so I can't no longer change it. This amulet is so underrated because it gives a huge damage boost and increases skill speed. And skill speed, in my opinion, is one of the most biggest quality of life improvements you can give any type of gameplay in Path of Exile 2. My weapon set 1 just has a generic shield with high block chance, life, resistances. Rings is essentially just adds XX to XX damage to attacks for either fire, cold, lightning, or physical. Preferably, you also want life on it, and resistances, and any other useful stat that you need to equip items, gems, etc. The other ring is identical. For boots, you just want high movement speed, life, dexterity, resistances. For gloves, you want adds XX to XX damage to attacks, and resistances, anything that's useful for your character. Now, these gloves actually, I'm able to actually put a jewel in it. So I bought these gloves for 2 divine, and I think they're actually worth significantly a lot more, considering that they're triple attack damage gloves and quadruple res, which is kind of insane. Um, so I've just put a damage drill in it with any other useful buffs. My belt, just high armor, life, a stat, and any other useful modifiers useful for my character. Now, I also have these gloves here that I was previously using. Very cheap to get. Gain 3 life per enemy hit with attacks. Gain 1 mana per life enemy with gain 1 mana per enemy hit with attacks. Comes from this rune right here. The 11 increased attack speed while missing Runic Ward is a super cheap new item that you can get on the currency exchange that basically removes a modifier on rare gloves, a random one, and grants you this. So these were my previous gloves. My flask is just an ultimate life flask. I have the Fall of the Axe Silver Charm, which grants onslaught during effect. Lustrous Thawing Charm grants immunity when frozen. And then Vibrant Stone Charm of the Brewer, which is essentially uses when I become stunned, so I don't become stunned. And my flask is this unique mana flask. You don't need to use this. It's just an endgame item that you can get. So my weapon set 2, I have a very high physical DPS spear. So preferably you want to get modifiers that either have plus to level of projectile skills or attack skills. And two really underrated modifiers is gain X mana or gain X life per enemy killed. I actually have that on my tree. So for example, this right here essentially does what that does, but in the life form. So if I had that on if I had gain life on my sphere, I would be able to unspec these three nodes and actually get another um, jewel socket somewhere on the passive tree. But I haven't been able to get a spear that has that. So this is what I'm currently doing to compromise for that. Sacred Flame is also an endgame item. You actually don't need it because on the passive tree, there's this notable right here, Dance with Death, that gives you 25% more skill speed while offhand is empty and you have a one-handed martial weapon in your main hand. So essentially, I was playing the whole entire campaign with no shield at all because I had this enabled. And then eventually when I got that, I didn't no longer needed this. So now I'm using Sacred Flame. So this just gives a huge damage boost. Just an endgame item to get. The skill tree is pretty straightforward. So weapon set 1, you want to assign to anything that gives you attack speed, because weapon set 1 is assigned to Whirling Slash, and the whole purpose of Whirling Slash is to have very fast attack speed to get 3 stacks for Twister to amplify the damage of Twister. And then weapon set 2 is just increased damage nodes. So increased attack damage, increased elemental damage, increased projectile damage. So that's only for Twister. For jewels, pretty straightforward. Increased attack damage, anything else useful like movement speed. You can also get this unique jewel as well, which significantly boosts Twister, plus 2 levels. And for the Ascendancy, you also want to go Vivid Stampede for number 1, Wild Protector for number 2, Primal Bounty for number 3, and then this one for number 4. There are a bunch of other useful nodes on this skill tree, such as Acceleration, 3% increased movement speed, 10% increased skill speed. Anything that improves the build or the quality of life of playing is definitely worth to invest in. This skill tree is pretty solid, so it's definitely a very good skill tree if you want to follow it for your own build or even make adjustments.